Hey guys, I'm GamerMD83 and welcome to the first episode of Mass Effect Talks. So I've been wanting to do this for some time now, but for some reason or another I just never actually sat down and made it happen. So basically every week I will put up a new episode and talk about anything and everything Mass Effect related. The length of the episodes will range every time, but I will try to make them around 10 minutes long. So let's get started. The topic of today's episode, since this is the first episode, I thought it would be fitting to make it about storyline suggestions. What that means is that I will give you guys my suggestions out of my experience, which decisions or choices make for more gratifying outcomes in Mass Effect 2, and which seem to lead to interesting situations from Mass Effect 3. I know that some of you may be PlayStation users, so you don't have the option to play Mass Effect 1. Or maybe you are an Xbox user and don't really want to go back to play Mass Effect 1. In that case, I'd suggest buying the Mass Effect interactive comic. It's not that much, and it is worth getting. It allows you to make the major choices of Mass Effect 1 so you don't have to play the default storyline, which is pretty dull. Okay, so male or female. There isn't much of a difference between these two choices. In fact, there isn't meant to be a difference, except for romantic interests, I guess. But I've played both male and female. My first and main character was a male, and I thought the voice actor was great. And to be honest, I didn't like female Shepard's voice at first. So I took forever to create a female Shepard. I didn't create her until Mass Effect 2. When I actually sat down and played for more than just 10 minutes with her, she really grew on me. And now I agree with a lot of people when they say that Jennifer Hale, female Shepard's voice, adds a lot more emotion to the character. Not to say that Mark Meer is bad at voicing male Shepard. In fact, I love his voice. Might lack a little bit of emotion, but I think he has a great voice anyways. Someone once told me he sounded like he was more about down to business than female Shepard did. So I guess when it comes to suggesting the sex of your character, I'd say go for female, just because there is more emotion in the lines. Other than that, I think the overall experience won't be affected tremendously either way. When it comes to your alignment, meaning whether you choose to be Renegade or Paragon, the only suggestion I would give is if you want to go neutral or have both bars pretty much equal, make sure you do everything to get as many Paragon and Renegade points as possible. Because the mistake I made with my first character was that I was what many call a Renegon, which is basically trying to be pretty equal with your alignment. If you don't max out the skill that provides more alignment points when customizing your Shepard, you will lack a lot of opportunities to affect situations that are linked with Paragon or Renegade points. For example, I didn't max out that skill I was talking about because I thought other skills were more important to focus on. So when I went to do Zaid's loyalty mission, I wasn't able to get Zaid's loyalty because I saved the factory, and the only way to get Zaid to willingly go with you is by using a Paragon dialogue at the end of the mission. If you don't have enough Paragon points, he will still go with you, but he'll be pretty pissed off, hence no loyalty. So the other option you have is to let the people of the factory die so that you do what Zaid wants, or to just wait until way later in the game when you have enough high Paragon or Renegade points to do this mission. I'm not sure if the same could be said for Renegade dialogue on this scene, but either way you need to have a good amount of points, at least Paragon, to save the people and get Zaid loyal. In Mass Effect 1, I wasn't able to do the alignment assignments. To get access to these assignments, you need to have 75% of either side of the gouge full. If not, tough luck. It's the only assignment I didn't get to finish in Mass Effect 1, which was pretty annoying. I know there's a little cheat or trick, whatever you want to call it, in Mass Effect 1 to get a lot of alignment points in Noveria. I tried this, and if you don't already have enough charm or intimidate points when first going to Noveria and trying this, when you go back, it won't work, so I was screwed. So your background. My main character was a spacer, and in Mass Effect 1, there were 3 specific assignments that were unique to your background. I loved the assignment I got as a spacer because you get to go back to the Normandy and call your mother from the comm room to get some information about someone you were trying to help that was acquainted with her. I loved that little detail, and in Mass Effect 2, your mother also sends you an email to check up on you. But I was thinking that when having Mass Effect 3 in mind, will Shepard act in any way differently if he or she is Earthborn? For this reason, I created my female Shepard as Earthborn, just in case. Your psychological profile, this is mostly up to you. I know Ruthless gives you a slight bump in Renegade points, War Hero gives you slight bump in Paragon points, and Soul Survivor pretty much keeps things neutral between the two. The only thing that I really liked in Mass Effect 1, if you were a Soul Survivor, was that you had a special little mission. That profile is the one where you were the only one that survived a Thresher Maw attack. Well, in the game, Admiral Hackett will contact you on the Normandy. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he basically lets you know that there's this facility that is somehow linked to that Thresher Maw attack. The point is, you go and you find another teammate of yours that had survived, also that you didn't know, and he's all messed up in the head, and you get to interact with him in a little scenario that unfolds there. But it was really cool that they did that. So for Mass Effect 1, I think that was the best profile. Now for the big choices. This goes for Mass Effect 1 and for Mass Effect 2. I know some characters that are recruitable don't have to be recruited if you don't want to. I'd say this is not a good idea. You should recruit all possible characters because they all have returning roles in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. And it's a more personal and gratifying experience when you meet them again after you had already had them on your team. One of the first notable decisions that you have to make in Mass Effect 1 was whether you choose to scan the Keepers on the Citadel or not. This is not a choice that you have for the interactive comic, so this is only for those of you that will go back to playing Mass Effect. Or just are curious to know. I know a lot of people don't scan the Keepers because it's kind of considered illegal. But trust me, I think that decision will come back and haunt you if you choose not to scan the Keepers. I did scan the Keepers, and in Mass Effect 2, Chorbin, I think is how you pronounce his name, the Solarian that asks you to scan the Keepers, sends you an email telling you about his findings. It's pretty interesting, and I think this will carry on to Mass Effect 3, since the Keepers are connected to the Reapers. Maybe not as much as they used to be, but they were placed on the Citadel by the Reapers, so I suggest you do scan the Keepers. Plus, if I remember correctly, there is a way to do it without getting Intimidate points, or without seeming like you're doing something bad. So you don't have anything to worry about. You won't be labeled a hoodlum or anything, so I'd say just go ahead and do it. The first big decision that you have to make, and this does apply to the interactive comic, is on Noveria. You have the choice to either save the Rachni or kill them all. I saved them, and since the Rachni will be returning somehow in Mass Effect 3, I'd say you should save them as well. It was mentioned in the game that the Rachni were most likely indoctrinated by the Reapers during the Rachni Wars, so it's safe to imagine that the Rachni can return to help you defeat the Reapers in Mass Effect 3, but it could also take a big twist and the Rachni might be indoctrinated again. I highly doubt this, but it's a possibility. Either way, it would be epic to see them return. Virmire. Huge decisions here. Also applies to the comic, except for one little aspect, which I'll mention in a little bit. First is whether you kill Rex. I didn't kill Rex, not only because he was a strong ally, but also because I really liked Rex. I would suggest saving Rex, because in Mass Effect 2 he is the Urdnot leader on Tuchanka, and the dialogue is much more interesting than the other Krogan that is there instead of Rex if you killed him. Also, Rex will show up again in Mass Effect 3, so why not save him? Next is the decision to save the Salarian Captain Kirrahe and one of your teammates. That's what's not involved with the comic, is saving Captain Kirrahe. I believe that default, whether you're using the comic or not, is Captain Kirrahe dies. So if you do go back to play Mass Effect 1, in order to save Captain Kirrahe, this is what you have to do. In my first game, I saved Ash because she was my romantic interest. So Kaidan and Kirrahe died. In order to save Kirrahe, you have to assign whichever squad mate you want to live with Kirrahe. So the other squad mate is in charge of the nuke, and they will die instead of the Salarians. I did not know this about Kirrahe at the time, so I wasn't as careful as I should have been. So to save Kirrahe, you have to send them with either Kaidan or Ash, whoever you want to save. Aside from Kirrahe, I'd say save the squad mate that you are having a romantic interest with, so that you could get the cold shoulder in Mass Effect 2, but then make up with them, if you want to, in Mass Effect 3. If you don't want to make up with them, they still will make for a juicy love triangle. For other non-romantic reasons, for example, if you romanced Liara, I'd say save Ash, just because she looks so much different in Mass Effect 3. Plus, she was a pretty good asset to the team. Kaidan was cool too, but if you're thinking about Mass Effect 3, Kaidan was a strong biotic, but physically he was pretty weak. At least he was for me. Plus, he does look cool, more mature and stuff, but the change isn't as drastic as Ashley's makeover. Finally, the decision to save the Destiny Ascension with the Council on board, or let them perish to save the Alliance fleets. This is also a choice that is available to make on the comic. In my first game, I hated the Council. Who doesn't? So I decided to let them die. Not so much because I hated them, but because I felt it was what my character would do in that situation. He'd stand by the military. It is a much wiser choice to save the Council, because if you do, they will grant you your Spectre status again in the beginning of Mass Effect 2. And this will give you more options throughout the game. Whether you choose to put Udina or Anderson as a human representative on the Council doesn't really matter. The only thing that I had in mind was how would Anderson be happier? And he would be happier not being directly involved with the Council, so I just placed Udina in the position instead. Udina does treat Anderson pretty bad, since Anderson is Udina's advisor or something like that in the beginning of Mass Effect 2, but he says he's glad you didn't place him on the Council. I do have my suspicions about Udina though, so stay tuned for my Udina discussion in another Mass Effect Talks episode.
Anderson, what are you doing here? I didn't send...
Those are the major suggestions I have regarding choices, mostly for Mass Effect 1. A lot of these do apply for Mass Effect 2 also. That is all for this episode of Mass Effect Talks. I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.